before.
Yeah.
Yes. So now we are in the box.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Yes.
Good day. Can you see me all right?
Yes, yes, it looks maybe it's certainly in your house, in your home, but probably in your studio.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. And what about the weather for the moment?
Sun
Oh,
and cold.
okay. Because did you get this very cold snow, and we heard near Buffalo it was very hard.
Oh no, not like that.
Not like that.
No, we very little this year. It's almost like there hasn't been a winter.
Okay.
For us.
Okay.
Which is
yes.
Nice in some ways and alarming in others.
Okay. So yes, you asked me about this Zoom, and you did not really know how it would be, and I wanted to make it private in the way that it relates to the group show, because it's meeting, if I can say, of artists which chose individually their work, and which work with the gallery. So I wanted to somehow give something of this personal relation between the artist and the gallery, and that's why I wanted to do that. And so the idea is to put the recording on online, if you agree, and if you.
I hope so.
Okay.
If I don't embarrass myself too badly.
Okay. And so the best way perhaps to speak about the works which are in the show, if it's okay with you. I don't know if you want to say something before, or if you want me to show the images directly.
Did you get my emails with the previous work images I sent this morning?
Yes.
They might help with some sort of context in terms of where the work is coming from, and it's part of a larger progression. So yeah, it's always hard for me to know where to start with these, because there's a lot of technical background.
Yes.
Which becomes too much very easily. But why don't we just start with an image, I guess.
Okay.
An image and a title.
So would you like me to show the early images first, or because I somehow put the succession of first the image of which are exhibited in the current show, and then finish with the images you sent this morning?
Sure.
So that's the group show.
Right.
You are 13 artists. That's the dates of the show. That's a view of the wall where your works are shown.
Right.
The works are here.
Yeah. Very nice.
That's the notes you sent. Perhaps I thought it could be useful.
Right. How to start? As it mentions, just starting about this time last year, I've decided that each of the pieces I make is going to go into one of two, each gets classified. Each element of a piece, or each, if it's a series of pieces, each piece in the series gets classified so that it's either a 0 or a 1, or vice versa, meaning if one piece is 0 and the other piece is 1, they could switch, but they're always opposite from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I use this to be able to build code basically out of the pieces, which are themselves generated in part by code. And the code I'm using generates text. And so, though I didn't think of it explicitly going in, there's definitely a loop between the text of the program, which generates the image, and then I finish the image, and then the image generates a text.
Mm-hmm.
So
why did you choose the specific images that we see in the show?
Well, to be honest, I wanted things that were easy to send and were finished or almost finished. So those were the 4 square pieces. That was a standalone piece that I had done previously, but I liked it, and it. But all the other ones I had in process when I got the notification of the show, and so it was a matter of finishing them. On this one, you really can't see it in the picture, but there's been a progression with this work, which I work with the computer to generate the image, which is a whole nother story we could maybe get into, and then print the image, and then I finish it by hand. And what I had been doing previously, I think you saw one of the ones that had glass beads on it. I would cover them with glass beads. I would paint. It was very sort of intricate and focusing on the individual piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started to get interested in the sort of code aspect, I realized I was going to need a lot of pieces, and it would take me a lifetime to spend that much time on each one. So I started working more with sequencing the pieces. So the piece that was in the larger work from last year, which is at the end of your images, those were all just prints covered in wax. And then these are in between, where I covered them with wax, and then I went over with the tool, and I was really concentrating on trying to work with different levels of transparency and working shapes into them, and different levels of seeing into it, and and superimposing some shapes. I think you see it more in the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
This one was pretty subtle, and they tend to be subtle, so they don't show up well in pictures.
Yes, but how to say? It seems somehow they are. It's a mix of what could seem at first antagonist of between the handmade and between the computer made, and between the real of the image and between the fabricated of the image. Maybe I'm not very clear, but and also between what seems to, because people have a direct feeling, a direct response to the images, and also they are very sophisticated, the images, if I can say.
Huh.
So it's, Yes.
there is a lot of, I don't know if it's antagonism, but certainly tension or trying to hold opposites together. Um, and it often gets left out when I talk about these images, because I talk about where they come from and the process and the code and all of that.
Which
But
could, excuse me, which could somehow afraid people in a way, because of the whole science that they need, or
right,
technicity. But
right. So the first thing is just how people react to it, and the thing about the 0 and the 1, I think about that sort of like Oulipo,
mhm.
that it's an arbitrary constraint that I've put on myself.
Mhm.
And part of the tension is also having almost a romantic outlook along with the technological outlook, and I'm, in addition, what I'm really concerned with is, or sort of what I'm underneath all of it, is my conviction that nothing we do is outside of nature. And so all of these computer networks, distribution, financial, all of this thing we've built, which may or may not be alive or may not be the beginning of a form of life, it's all part of nature as much as the forest is. We just happen to be inside it. And then you look at the landscape of the forest, which I love. The landscape, I love that. I don't know if it's sublime, that feeling you get sometimes when you look at the landscape, and it's just amazing. But of course, the landscape is full of conflict and struggle, and everything's trying to eat everything else, and all of that. And so I'm sort of scaling that into the landscape that we're in the middle of, that includes AI and technology and distribution and things like that. Did that make sense?
Yes, and yes, it makes a lot of sense. And you work with code for a long time, I think now.
Yes, it's been since, well, in the 80s, I started to tinker with programming, and then I gave it up because it took all my time, and I realized I wasn't going to be any good at it. And then it was just a few years ago, I finally said, okay, I'm going to try. And I took a programming class, and I was interested in neural networks. And I learned just enough to be able to download something and get it to work. And I've been working with that. And along the way, I've picked up quite a bit. Though at the beginning, it was just a black box. I would put the images in and stuff would come out, and I didn't understand how it worked. And now, of course, there's all of the things like DALL-E and the other big AI image generators, which is, I'm at the other end of the scale from them, where I'm trying to look at things at a very sort of almost cellular level. And they're about complete ideas and phrases. You type in the prompt, a sailing ship on a river and a sunset, and it'll generate that image. And that technology is essentially the same as the technology I've been using, but it's scaled up enormously. And so when that started becoming popular, I had to think about how I was going to react to it.
So do you make a difference between that's perhaps a silly question, but between text and image, because it seems to relate closely in the way you worked with them.
The textual element is important. I'm not sure. So if you compare what I do to, say, something like DALL-E, they're actually almost complete opposites in a way. And I'm just figuring this out, so hopefully I don't go astray. But with DALL-E, you type in a phrase, like I said, and it generates the image, a very photorealistic image, and it generates a complete picture from complete words. And my images are their relationship to text is really the text inside the code. And I've purposefully tried to create images that have this sort of glitch. It's the computer trying to put things together that don't fit. And that's what creates the tension and the interest in the images. And over the course of working with them, I've internalized them so that they're intuitive to me and part of how I see the world. And so that is a connection between the life technology, the living part, and the machine part, sort of within me, that goes into the images. And then when I sort of arbitrarily create code and text on top of the images, it's like trying to build a sculpture. Or I originally thought about Finnegan's Wake, and drew from Finnegan's Wake because of that, the way Joyce would build words out of other words. And so there were levels of meaning sort of on the base word, and then all the associated words on top of it. So I'm trying to build sort of a multi-dimensional building blocks of a multi-dimensional structure, I guess.
Because I know that you that Beckett reference is important for you. I did not know about Joyce, but it's not surprising.
Right. And then I have to keep going back to, like I still really like this piece. A lot of times I can't stand looking at my own work, but I look at this piece and my reaction to it has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's on a visual level, I want there to be a potential story, or something that draws you into the image. So you have to sort of put things together a little bit, and it engages that way. So that's what I'm after, I guess, on a purely visual level.
But what I meant with antagonist at the beginning is that there is something very basic in the reaction to your work, that you say that you simply like the images and feel drawn to them. and but cannot really explain why somehow. And but also they come from a whole process. They are not simple images. They
Right.
don't know how to say.
Yeah, they are.
And so you chose maybe it was just a proposition, but you chose a display for the works.
Right.
Is there a meaning about this disposition, or it's
Well, yeah, there were two actually. One was when I laid the pieces out and I started arranging them, and I had in mind a 0 and 1 schema, because you can see there's 3 that are darker and 3 that are lighter, and so that would be the 0 and 1 difference. And it takes in the code 0, it's a bit is each 0 or 1, and it takes 8 bits to make a letter, but there's only 6 here. So just for fun, I arranged them to sort of see, again, visually and what they would produce. And in that arrangement, they start the beginning of a capital X, capital Y, or capital Z in the code. So I thought that was sort of fun, and I liked the way it looked. So that was why I suggested it. And this is all sort of transitional. I'm starting to put together another larger project, which I'm in the process of figuring out, and these pieces have been part of that step.
And I thought of yourself from the previous work that you shown with me at my gallery. I thought yourself as a poet. Do you feel like that, or?
Oh, that's funny. Many years ago, I thought of myself as a poet, and text is very important. And what happens is sometimes phrases emerge, and they become like anchors, or they become chants, and I repeat them. And sometimes there are dry periods where it doesn't happen. So I don't have a writing practice per se where I try to work on it. Though maybe I should. I've actually been reading Patti Smith's books of sort of reflection and imagination. And it's but there's the gallery I'm with here up in Montpelier just started a poetry reading series, so that's got me wondering. So, we'll see.
Okay.
Well,
here is one of the photo that you sent just recently. So
yeah, and that's where that work was shown. It was in it was like a hallway, that gallery space, which was great for experiencing it and walking by, but I couldn't get any shots of it all together. And I hope in the future to display it and its companion more in this format, in a bigger space.
So is it in a gallery? Is it a wall of a gallery, or is it?
No, it's actually the wall of my office. It's the only wall that's big enough.
Okay. And so the gray background, is it on purpose, or?
The gray background, that is plywood.
Oh, okay.
So what it is it's an 8-foot by 16-inch piece of plywood. And then I made a system so I could mount the individual pieces on it in any order. So those are 8-inch by 8-inch prints covered in wax.
Mm-hmm.
And then underneath is a transparency print of 1-inch by 1-inch. And these are all images from that are from the computer output, because when I run the software, I generate hundreds or thousands of images.
Mm-hmm.
And so this, I should have, oh wait, I've got it right here. Yeah, so that top one in the 0 and 1 scheme is 0. You can't see what I'm pointing at, can you? It's 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, which is R. And then the strip underneath makes a phrase. And then the next, so that the top panel makes an R. The next panel is R again. The next panel is U. And the last one is N.
Mm-hmm.
So it's RRUN. And the sort of joke aspect is to make a computer program work, it runs. When the robots take over, the people have to run. And it's the second half of the first word in Finnegan's Wake.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then each of the panels has a different quality. So the top one could be 0, and then the next one could be a 1, and then the following one would be a 1, and then the last one would be a 0, or vice versa. And they're unassigned because they don't have any context. It's the context of the story or the letter or the phrase that determines whether or not it's a 0 or a 1.
Because the general outlook is makes me think also of the stripe of a film, or
Yes,
I don't know if it's
absolutely. And when I first started this project, I was thinking of sort of video editing software, and I was going to have 2 strips below. I was thinking it would be like the soundtrack, and there would be left channel and right channel, and that the larger images would be the video frames. But that ended up being too busy.
Mm-hmm.
And but it definitely relates to film and to frames. And also, if you think of it as film, you could also think of the film strip as there's an optical sound track on printed film, 16mm film, 35mm film.
Mm-hmm.
So it was playing with all of that. And that's where I developed, yeah, that one, you can just see it a little better. And with the images in this piece, the images that I sent you are part of the same overall effort that generated these images, where I had trained the software to create these sort of landscape, I think of them as landscape network images, like on the top row there. And then, so you train on this whole set of images, and it runs for a long time. It creates this model that generates these images. So I took that finished model and I gave it a set of sort of flesh tone squares, pixelated flesh tone squares, to as the new training set, to sort of detrain it from the forest network to sort of surface flesh. And all of this is what happened in that process.
Okay.
And so the images that are with you as well. So that's another part of the background. But again, you know, these are actually meant to be walked by, and you get, and of course nobody, when they experience it, they know any of that about any of that stuff, because it's all written in the book that nobody looks at. So then it's just sort of a narrative experience that people put together as they will.
So I also put this
Yeah.
chart.
Well, there it is, and that was, I think I had that as part of the show materials. You can see the ones that are highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
So are and that binary code, you know, that is what, when you press the keyboard on your computer,
Mm-hmm.
that's what that key is sending into the machine.
Okay. And so a very simple question: you moved from town to the country. I think. Did it change a lot for you, and did it change in your work? Did it?
Well, there were changes. Well, yes, it did. Actually, it was fundamental, because when I lived in town, I used to do representational paintings, and I would always include some technology. I liked wires and utility poles and shopping malls and things like that. And so I was accustomed to looking for that kind of thing. And I remember being out here in the forest and thinking, well, okay, you know, where's the technology?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I started thinking about the forest, looking at the forest and saying, wait a minute, there's the technology. The forest is a network. The forest is a system. Most of, you know, trees have a living layer on the outside, but mostly it's mostly they're, you know, just cellulose, I guess. And so I had this idea about the forest being a network, and then I did some reading, which turned out that biologically it's true. Lucky for me. And it, you know, it's an incredible system. So seeing that connection between the forest and the network, and then also being isolated in the woods, I'm completely reliant on the internet for my connection with the world, for any kind of communication and, you know, ability to function. So those things became central to my work.
And also what you your research, if I can say, would you make connection with the work of some other artists, or?
That's a question I always have a hard time with, because I don't often know the name. You know, I'll see an image that will sink in and I won't remember the name. To be honest, I can't really think of anyone who's doing what I'm doing. There's so I'm drawing a blank on a name, and I look on Instagram a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And online, and see a lot of.
But do you have the feeling of being part of, if I can say, a network or a family, or more to be isolated? or more to be individual?
I would like to be more a part of a network. A lot of the people I know, this isn't really their thing. And the people that work on this kind of software, their ambition is different. Their ambition is to create a lifelike image or a specific type of image, which is different from what I'm doing. So I'd say I'm mostly isolated, but trying to work in the other direction.
Mm-hmm. And so we met through Michael Schamberg, and at the time you lived in town, I think, and Michael also was very connected to city life and to town life. Right. And was it your removal? Was it somehow connected with change of life and change of?
Well, it was a change of life for myself and my family, which actually coincided with Michael becoming debilitated and finally passing away. I think it was a 3-year process of us moving up here, getting the place ready, and so on. And I think he finally passed away the year after we had moved up here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could use some of Michael's social talent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was an amazing person with just the most incredible network of friends you could imagine. And that's, and I owe my connection with you and your gallery to Michael and that whole world.
So sorry for asking intimate questions.
No, it's all right.
And I think it was important to hear you about your work, because it's all the artists in the show, they are extremely different somehow, the one from the others, and it's a way to enter a little more in what we have before the eyes when you experience the works, and so.
And so you're going to there'll be something online with.
Yes, I intend just to put the videos online, and if people want to give attention to them, or it would be a pleasure to know the reactions. And but also I think there is a kind of intimacy between the relation between artist and gallery, and there certainly is an intimacy in the relation with art, and so I think it gives some ideas or some notions of that through those videos. Enfin, that's.
I'll be interested to see, and I know a little French, so hopefully I'll be able to follow on some of the other ones.
Okay. So and I think it somehow needs to be not to be too long to get the attention from people, and so I don't know if you would like to say something more, or.
Not really, except for thank you. It's I enjoy very much the connection with you and the gallery, and I'm glad to have the work there, and I'm glad to have a chance to talk about it. So
okay, so thank you. And it was great to meet you. So
okay, likewise.
So good. So Ned, just say goodbye, and hope we'll have the chance to meet soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Take care. So
Take
long.
care. Goodbye. Thanks.